Our welcome course. Okay, so today we will be learning about while loops. And like before, I prepared a notebook, and you need to revise this notebook today because in the next video I will be making a nice simple game, and it contains a lot of while loops. So you need to revise this, okay? So let's go ahead and jump over to our Jupyter Notebook. See you there. Okay, so here is my Jupyter Notebook. And first, I've got to explain to you what a while loop is. So you can refer to it as a while statement, but I prefer referring to it as a while loop. So a while loop in Python is one of the most common ways to perform iteration. Okay, so iteration is when it repeatedly executes a single statement or group of statements as long as the condition is true. Because if the condition is false, then this while loop will stop. So the reason it is actually called a loop is because the code statements are like repeated over and over again like a loop until the condition is no longer met. Okay, so a bit like a roller coaster ride when you go on it and it only stops when the person hosting it pulls the lever that makes it stop. Okay, so this is the actual format of a while loop. So while, and then a boolean or a variable, or like when we did if statements, we could put a comparison operator. We could use comparison operators, okay? And then you write your code that you want to execute while this condition is true. And then you put your else statement, and then you put your final code statements if this condition is not true. So let me show you an example. So right now I'm going to say x is equal to 0. And now I'm going to define while. So while, and like an if statement, this is highlighted in green and it's bold, okay? So look out for that. Otherwise, you made a spelling error. So while x is smaller than 10, okay? So x is 0, so it is smaller than 10. And I use the comparison operator here, okay? So this will create a boolean output that will not be shown, okay? So while x is smaller than 10, I want to print x is currently, and then as I told you in that first video, you cannot concatenate a string and an integer together because x is an integer because it's a whole number. So instead of concatenating it, I will put a space here, obviously, and put a comma and then write x. So this doesn't count it as concatenating. It just counts as putting this at the end, okay? So no concatenating here. And now I want to print another one, so print what I want to print is x is still less than 10, and then adding 1 to x. So you'll see why I wrote this statement. And then straight after here, I need to write a statement that makes x add 1. So adds 1 to x each time it performs this loop. Otherwise, we'll just have an infinity loop because x is 0 and it isn't getting bigger, so it won't reach 10 at all. So what I want to type down is x plus equals x. So what I'm saying here is x plus 1 equals x. Okay, so it will perform an error if we write x plus 1. X plus 1 equals x. So let me show you. See? it didn't run anything. So what I need to type down is x plus equals x. Whoops, let me just fix this. I'm not supposed to write x, I'm supposed to write 1. So this is because I'm trying to say x plus 1 equals x, but instead you write your value at the end, okay? So Python will assume that we are trying to add 1 and to our variable and assign that value to our variable. So you'll see what will happen now. So I am going to check the errors first. There's no errors. Okay, so I'm going to run this. And there we go. It says x is currently 0. X is still less than 10, so I am going to add 1. And then it says x is currently 1, x is currently 2, x is currently 3, and so on. And then it stops at the end when the value is x, but it doesn't execute that piece of code because I said while x is smaller than 10, you can only print this. And 9, and once it reaches 10, it doesn't print this statement anymore. So let me add an else statement to make it more clearer, okay? So I am going to write down here. Actually, no, we'll just edit this one. So while x is smaller than 10, print x is currently, and then x, like that. And now, after I write x plus equals 1, I am going to type down else, and then I am going to type down print all done. Okay? So what I'm trying to say here is, once x is 10, I want to print all done, okay? So let's run this again. And notice at the end it says all done, okay? So it's all done. Okay, so I'm sure you understood that. Now we are going to introduce some new statements called break, continue, and pass. So they are not really while loops, but they do help a lot. Okay, so the break function looks like this, so like breaking, and this one comes with some nice. This one comes in green highlighting, so I'm just going to convert this into markdown so I can write down the definition. So break equals, so break, what the break function does, so it breaks out of the while loop. So what I mean by this is it like stops the while loop altogether. It doesn't run anymore, okay? Once it reaches this break statement, it doesn't run anymore. It just stops. And what the continue statement does, okay, so what the continue statement does is, so let me just show you what the continue statement looks like in here. So continue, that's what the continue statement looks like. So let me show you what the continue statement does. So what it does is it goes to the top of the closest loop. Now this will be quite hard to understand right now, but what it only means is it just continues the loop when, so once it ends, what our thing will do, so once it reaches all done, it will run this loop again, okay? So it will run this loop. Okay? And now there's another statement called pass. So a bit like when we did booleans, it was none, but this one says pass. So what pass does is it does nothing, okay? So remember when I did booleans, I wrote down A equals none, and when I asked for A, whoops, you need to put a capital letter phone now, but right. And then if I run A, it doesn't give an output, okay? So let me show you what the pass statement looks like right now. So not now, but like later. So let's use the break and continue statement first. So I'll show you an example. And then I'm going to type in x is equal to 0 again. And then while x is smaller than 10, I want to print, so write down print, I want to print x is currently, and then comma, x. So I'm not concatenating because it doesn't have a plus sign. And then after that, I want to print down x is still smaller than 10. So excuse the spelling errors here. So I just correct that. And then remember when I wrote that statement that makes x turn into 1, then 2, then 3. So again, x plus equals x. 1. So we are adding 1 and then assigning that added value to x. And now I'm going to do a statement, if statement. So you can write if statements inside of while statements. So if x is equal to 3. Okay, so it will be much easier to use a break, continue, and pass statement if you had an if statement in your while loop. So if x is equal to 3, print x is equal to 3. Okay, so you can write conditions inside of this main condition, and then it will be quite nice and, more detailed. And now I'm going to put an else statement. So if it doesn't equal 3, instead of printing x is equal to 3, I want to print continuing. Sorry about the spelling again. Continuing, and then I'm going to continue. Okay, so let me just add these 3 dots. And there you go. It says x is currently 0 and x is still smaller than 10. Continuing. X is currently 1, x is still smaller than 10, continuing. And if we go to 3, it says x is currently 2, x is still smaller than 10. And once it reaches 3, it says x is equal to 3, x is currently 3, x is smaller than 10, and then it continues again. And there we go. It goes on and on and on until it reaches 10. It says continue. Okay, so now let's add a break statement. Okay, so now I'm going to put it in this if x equals to 3. Okay, so if x equals to 3, instead of printing x is equal to 3, I'm going to print breaking because x is equal to 3. Okay, and then after I print that, I'm going to print out break, and it will stop the entire while loop. okay? But it will we'll see what happens, okay? See, it broke because we wrote down break. So now this statement will be ignored because as soon as break is as soon as it reaches break, it will just stop the entire while loop, okay? So yes, so after these simple examples, you want to know what the past statement does. So let me define an example again. So I'm going to say while x is equal to 0, I'm going to define x again. So x is equal to 10. So I'm just going to count down from 10. Print counting down from 10, and I am going to write down what should I write down? I'm going to write down x minus equals 1. So instead of plus equals 1, I'm going to write minus equals 1. Okay, so now I'm going to add in the past statement. So I'm going to write if x is equal to 2 pass, because right now I do not know what to do. So I can just write down pass and then write else and then pass, because right now I just wanted to add the if statement, but I don't know what condition I want to add when x is equal to 2 and what condition I need to add if it doesn't equal to. So let's run that. And there we go. It doesn't run this piece of code. So now this piece of code is delayed. So now let me write pass here. Whoops, I need to indent this. And there you go, nothing happens. So like none, it's pass instead. Okay. So that is all you need to know on while loops for now. And please, 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 please check out the notebook, because in the next video, we will be doing a guessing game that contains while loops, okay? So see you then. Bye.